In the last investing video, we found out that cases were the best all across the board, so today we're breaking down which ones you should pick up right now. Now here are the reasons you should potentially think about investing today. If we want to look at these indexes right here, as you can see, they are starting to go up. However, the cases we're going to mention today have not yet seen the same growth, making it a very prime opportunity if you do want to hop in right now. Combine that with the fact that CS2 is potentially on the horizon, and we can look at the past video and see that it increased case prices significantly, and there's no reason not to potentially start thinking about it today. SkinSwap is today's sponsor, and they're also sponsoring you with a free bonus for signing up with the first link in the description. They're the premier place for CSGO and Rust skins, with a massive trading site and a top-of-the-line marketplace, offering you the most competitive rates out there and a massive 40% bonus when you're using that link in the description. Combine that with their top-of-the-line selling feature with many payout options, and their trading feature legitimately taking you just about a minute, and there's no reason not to sign up with that first link in the description. Now, because we're looking for the most optimal cases when CS2 does come out, we're not going to be talking about active duty cases, and we're not going to be talking about discontinued cases. These are not the most optimal. Now, the first case on my list has to be the Prisma 2. The Prisma 2 has been absolutely dominating in terms of everything we look for in a case. If we want to talk about unboxing numbers, unfortunately, this is what the site looks like, but I've got a week old unboxing numbers, which are relatively the same, and you can see Prisma 2 is still at the top of the list and being one of the most unboxed case. Even though the Prisma is a very good substitute at this point, I would say the Prisma 2 is a little bit more optimal than the Prisma 1. If you got Prisma 1s, I wouldn't sell them off for a Prisma 2, just because usually we see the trend that cases that are having these same items inside of them, when we're talking about the golds, relatively speaking, remain the same price. The Prisma 2 has also been dropping quite significantly in terms of available supply, which I think is a really good attribute when we want to look at these cases. And you got to remember, this is during a down time. What's going to happen when the interest starts to pick up once again and we see a lot of people flocking to cases? I think they're going to go to the Prisma 2, at least at this moment, which makes it a very interesting area that I think you should check out. Now after that, we do have the Danger Zone, because it's still in that number 2 spot, and the Danger Zone might be actually the best case to look into if you're not looking into the Prisma 2. Although it's not the most unboxed case, the thing we need to look at is the fact that the total amount of cases out there, especially for the Danger Zone, it's not extremely high. The other thing I really like about the Danger Zone is the fact that the Horizon case is not really one that people go to. If we want to compare the Prisma 1 and Prisma 2, they're relatively similar. Horizon and Danger Zone are completely different. The Horizon is a little bit more older of a case, and combine that with the fact it's a little bit more expensive and most people don't really see it on the same level as the Danger Zone, and that's going to make it a very optimal area to invest into the Danger Zone, because it's not really seen as comparable, and that's what we want to look for, is cases that have unique but still extremely interesting features about them. Now, number 3 on my list goes to the Clutch case, and the Clutch case is the current most unboxed case inside of the entirety of CSGO, making up almost like 8% of the total cases unboxed. However, the fact is the Clutch case has an absolutely massive supply. It is currently the number 1 most supplied case out there when we're talking about rare cases, and that makes it a very hard sell, especially if we're comparing it to something like the Prisma 2 or the Danger Zone, which have a much lower supply. As you can see right here, the Clutch case is significantly higher than some of those other cases. That's going to take a long time for them to get down to similar levels. Therefore, I want to say this one is definitely a very good alternative, but I wouldn't say at this point it's my number 1 area to look into, just because we also now have the Revolution case, which is coming down to a very similar price point and something that people could actually start reasonably opening instead of the Clutch case. Before, the Revolution case was extremely expensive compared to the Clutch case. Now they're starting to get down to similar levels, and I think that people are probably going to opt for the Revolution case over the Clutch case. I think the Clutch case is definitely going to have some movement just because there's so much interest around it, but I will say the supply on this thing is absolutely massive, and that's the number 1 most area of concern for me personally. After that, you have what I call the Holy Trinity. These are going to be basically your Gamma cases, your Spectrum cases, and your Chroma cases. I mean, if we look at the past video, these cases did unbelievably well and almost were able to keep up with the cheap rare cases, which is a very impressive feat. However, they don't really have a super cheap price point, so they're not available to everyone, which is one of the really limiting factors about these cases. However, breaking these down, we see a very interesting trend form, and that is the fact that it really doesn't make sense for you to overpay to make sure you get like the Chroma 1 case or the Spectrum 1 case. The cheaper cases tend to outperform the more expensive cases as long as they're in the same group. If that doesn't make sense, basically you're going to be opting for the most cheap case out of these groups most of the time. That's because these prices tend to kind of move in groups, and if you have both of the Gamma cases, it's probably going to remain a relatively similar price between them. Same with the Spectrums and same with the Chromas. And when we think about it, this makes 100% sense. That's because a lot of the people who are opening up these cases are not doing so for the skins inside of them. Instead, they're doing it for the rare special item, which in this case happens to be the unique exclusive knives that these cases offer, which makes it extremely promising because you can go ahead and invest into some of these a little bit cheaper cases and still expect to see the price returns that you would get with the more expensive cases, even though the percentage ROI is going to be better because you bought in at a lower price point. Now, the one case I really like as of currently is the revolver case. The revolver case has been on a tear for the past year, but it's about to get even better in my opinion. Currently, it's about $1 cheaper than the next alternative to unbox those rare OG knives. It's about $1.50 cheaper than the Phoenix case, and the biggest thing about this is it's super old, and that's actually really beneficial for you as an investor. That's because of this graph right here. You can see that there is significantly less revolver cases currently in supply, and that's going to be very beneficial because that means the price can theoretically go up a little bit quicker with lesser demand. However, the demand in this area for the revolver case is absolutely massive. We can look at unboxing numbers and see just how many people are wanting to unbox the revolver case for their chance at those rare OG knives, potentially that $1.5 million blue gem, and I don't think that's going to decrease at all in the upcoming future. In fact, it's probably going to increase quite significantly. Now, if you're absolutely sure you want to go for it, there is the option to invest into some active duty cases for a quick flip. If we want to go back to my past video, we saw a 570% increase for the snakebite case and a relatively similar increase for the fracture case, which is absolutely insane. But the truth is that only happened because people bought in when they were super low and were able to sell at the peak. If you're looking to hold something long term, I don't suggest this route. However, it is a very popular route, especially considering we saw the massive growth with CS2, and people are hypothesizing that case demand would go up to a very similar level we saw before. Just note that this is a very risky route because if an operation comes, you could easily lose 50% of your investment at an already cheap case. Now, my top 3 cases to buy are going to go as follows. Prisma 2 is definitely on the list. It's just way too strong, and the unboxer demand is there, and we can clearly see that as shown as being one of the most prominent in this area. I will say the Prisma 1 definitely provides some competition, although it seems like these two are probably going to rise in tandem, which is a decent thing. After that, you get the Danger Zone case, which does have competition from the Horizon. However, that's where the bad things stop here as well. I think the Danger Zone is in a very prime position because it has those knives, but it also just seems to have a lot of unboxing demand, which I can't really figure out as of why, but it's definitely there, and it's not going to stop when Counter-Strike 2 comes out, which is one of the things I really like about this case. And finally, I gotta put in the revolver. It's just way too strong in its current format not to make the list. People are wanting this case, people are wanting those rare OG knives, and that's only going to increase significantly when we see Counter-Strike 2 come out. There's no reason that this case is going to fall off in the near future, and I think it's definitely one you should consider. Now, in my personal opinion, if I had to invest into anything, I would probably choose the Prisma 2 or the Danger Zone just because they're a little bit of the cheaper alternatives. Revolver is very nice, but it's 3 times the price of those ones, and when I don't have a super large budget, I want to make sure I can get a ton of cases that are good investments at a very cheap price, and that's exactly what I see here. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day.